because of you.
Well, hi there, Cindy Dole, and this is Hour 2 of Home Wizards, where I love to help you improve your home and improve your life, and I hope you're having fun. Wasn't that fun talking to Molly Mitchell? I just love her, and we talk about all these good things every Saturday, from 2 to 4. If you're just discovering the show, come on. We start at 2, but don't worry, we have a good hour left, and we're going to have all kinds of good solutions and ideas for you, I promise. We love to talk about how to just discover not just the obvious ways, but perhaps even the less obvious, the sublime things to do to really start to enjoy the spaces you call home more. And as a result, you're going to love where you live, and you're going to love how you're living. So coming up in the next hour, I love getting emails from you guys, and someone said, what do you do about windows? I said, it's time to do a segment on windows, and so we're going to talk about it. It's such an investment. But when do you think about getting some new windows and have the old ones replaced? And the money you're probably throwing away, the energy you're throwing away, those are some important things. Can you afford it? How is this going to save you? What do you do? What are the incentives? You may be thinking about windows, so we're going to talk about all that as we explore through the next hour. Then later on, we're going to talk about citrus trees. And citrus trees are such a they're just the essence of Southern California, right? I mean, here we are, Orange County, hello, oranges everywhere, and I grew up with citrus trees and still have them in our yard and in containers, but there's still this very nasty pest that is really penetrating Southern California, and so we're going to talk with researchers that are looking into ways to stop this Asian citrus psyllid, and it's a terrible thing. It made a huge impact on the Florida citrus, and so we're trying to stop it here in our area. How do you detect it? And then also some of the new varieties of citrus, just to enjoy that lovely, scrumptious fruit. 888-539-2980 is the number. You can keep handy to call on in, 888-539-2980. And I hope you remember to follow me on Facebook later throughout the week. It's Facebook.com/follow Cindy. And you are going to love seeing these pictures that I've been posting about the making of a monarch butterfly. It's just so intriguing to me. And someone said, you should have like a time-lapse camera there and put it on Ustream. And I wish I would have thought of that in time, but instead I'm just taking some still shots and a little bit of video and putting it on Facebook. But let me know what you think and just check it out at Facebook.com/follow Cindy. So let's get to my next guest and talk about windows and figure out ways to really save energy and to save money and just have a great view from your home.
Just got home from Illinois, locked the front door, oh boy, got to sit down, take a rest on the porch. Imagination sets in, pretty soon I'm singing, looking out
My back door. Whether it's the back door or the front door, I mean, you got to have windows. It brightens up a room so much, right? Finding energy-efficient windows has really become a little bit easier, from they have these new heat-reflecting low-E coatings, and there's argon gas between panes is becoming more standard, and there's new options, and there's extras like fiberglass window frames. But, you see all of these commercials that say, stop throwing money out your old windows. And with energy costs on the rise, a lot of us may wonder whether it is time to replace aging, drafty windows with more efficient and tight-fitting ones. And boy, we changed a few windows. We didn't do the whole house, but a few, and you really do see the difference, but they're not cheap, so there's some decisions to make. So with me is a guy who's going to help us. They do a lot of research on how do you know if a window is a good window. Niles Peterman, he is with a group called the Efficient Windows Collaborative. So thanks for being here, Niles.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi. So first, explain to everybody, because I'm new to learning about your website, which is efficientwindows.org. You are a research policy advice kind of a group with no ties to anyone in particular.
Yeah, we actually a couple of different groups here. So I work for the Alliance to Save Energy, which is an energy efficiency group. So we promote energy efficiency, whether it's windows, whether it's cars, all of the above. But we work together with the University of Minnesota, and they are right in the middle of Windows Mecca, is what I want to call it, in Minnesota, where some of the largest window manufacturers are around there. And it's cold there in Minnesota, so they know how to look for energy-efficient windows.
Mm-hmm. I betcha. Well, so let's kind of walk through the basic process, getting started. How do you get started? When you're thinking and dreaming of windows, where do you begin?
Well, at least from our perspective, since energy efficiency is really what we care about most, Energy Star is where we would start looking. That is a government-endorsed label that tells consumers that the windows they're getting are energy efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our simple way to start.
And not all windows necessarily qualify for that Energy Star rating, do they?
Not all windows do. However, in California right now, I would say most of the windows actually do qualify. California has been pretty good at adopting energy efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
so you'll have plenty of options there.
Mm-hmm. And when you have that seal that's on that window that you're looking at, you're doing maybe some web research before you actually then go to a store or a showroom and get a little closer to making some of your top picks. What does that really mean to us, that Energy Star label is there?
Well, you mentioned some terms before, just at the start of the Windows session. You mentioned argon gas,
Mm-hmm.
low E coatings. Now, those kind of things, that can get pretty technical if you look at what gas is between the panes of a window, and you can't see any of that. So what now the Energy Star label is trying to do is make it easy for folks to know that those windows are energy efficient, because an Energy Star window might not look any different from a not-so-efficient window.
Yeah. So it is kind of overwhelming, isn't it? I mean, you really have to do your research.
Yeah, well, it's really the label is intended to make it easier. You can, of course, do a lot of research, and I find it interesting to dig into what does the low E coating do? How does it affect UV radiation, infrared radiation, and so on? But that's not necessarily, well, not everyone is an energy or a technology nerd as I am.
Well, that sounds like great cocktail party conversation right there.
So if you care more about what your windows look like, well, that's where you shouldn't ask me about the aesthetics.
Yeah.
So in terms of aesthetics, the homeowner will of course know what fits best into the look of the home.
Mm-hmm.
But energy efficient windows are not supposed to look any different from any other windows.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be able to see through the glass, so you're not supposed to see those low E coatings or the gas is invisible. So now what the Energy Star label does is show people, okay, this window, although it might not look any different, is an energy-efficient one, and that can make a big difference.
Yeah. Would you say that because you guys have been researching windows for quite some time, would you say that the windows that are out today have really evolved from the windows of, let's say, maybe just 10 years ago?
Well, the technologies that are used currently in the energy-efficient windows, they're already a few decades old, so it's not really rocket science anymore. But what has happened is that now they're pretty much ubiquitous. So if you go to any of the big box stores or to a window retail room, you're going to find energy-efficient windows. Whereas in the beginning, it was still kind of expensive to go to the energy efficiency, and so maybe a smaller share of the market actually offered those windows. By now, pretty much most manufacturers out there, they're going to have some energy-efficient options.
Mm-hmm. And I've been reading, when you go to consumerreports.org, it's one of my favorite websites to kind of cross-reference anything that you buy for the home. And I know that they're not tied to what you guys are doing, but they're, like you, a very credible, independent resource. They're saying that if you have old-fashioned single-glazed windows, that replacement windows might save you up to 25% a year for heating and cooling. Does that ring true to you?
In general, I'm always skeptical when it comes to percentages, but this number sounds good.
Okay.
Now, here's the deal. It depends a lot on where you are, what climate you have, well, actually what your home looks like. Now, the research that I've looked at for Southern California, the numbers might actually be higher than that. And the reason is that a lot of the heating and cooling energy use in Southern California is cooling, and windows can do a tremendous job in reducing the cooling need, because a large portion of what you're cooling in a home is the energy that comes in from the sun. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't want the windows to go away, or we don't want them to be dark, but having those low E coatings that you have in Energy Star windows, they can reflect, well, probably about 50% of the heat that you would otherwise get through the windows if they were not Energy Star.
All right, well, hold it right there, Niles, because we have a few more questions for you as we're exploring the whole idea of windows. Maybe you at home are looking at your windows thinking, I'm looking at my utility bill. Maybe it's time to save as much as 25% on our heating and cooling, and it's a real hot weekend. But what do you look for, and how do you know that based on where you live in Southern California, it's the right choice? We have the answers for you. Listening to Home Wizard Cindy Dole here on KFWB News Talk 980.
I can see her eyes looking from the page of a magazine. She makes me feel. Stand by me, stand by me.
Welcome back. We love to stand by you no matter what your decisions are for the place you call home, That's what we do. Home Wizards here, Cindy Dole here, Saturdays 2 to 4. And by the way, if you want to call in, you can. The number is 888-539-2980, 888-539-2980. And it is kind of a toasty weekend, And as you're looking at the air conditioning and your utility bills and the air that may be escaping from those windows, you may be thinking, it's time to do something different. So I thought we'd talk about it. And Niles Peterman is with a group called the Efficient Windows Collaborative. And so nice to have you here, Niles, to kind of give us a little more smarts in this category. You love Windows, don't you?
Oh, I do.
How come you love Windows so much? I guess the technology, you said you're kind of a technology geek when it comes to this, huh?
Yeah, it's really it's really something where, as I mentioned, if you look at them first, you might not notice the difference. You might want to open the windows and shut them and look through them, but yeah, there are many intricate details in them, and it's fun to look at them cut open and see the differences of frame types and so on.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of efficiency ratings, I read that there's something called the U factor and an R factor. What's all that about?
Well, the U factor, that really mainly determines the amount of heat loss that you've got.
The amount of what?
So the amount of heat loss.
Heat
that
loss.
you have.
Okay, heat loss.
Yeah, so that's mostly important during the wintertime when it's cold outside. And a lower U factor is better. A lower U factor means that less heat escapes from your home, and it also means that it feels more comfortable. So if you want to have it nice and warm near your windows, then you're looking for windows that have a low U factor. Now, you mentioned the R value as well, which is the opposite as the U factor. Those are actually just two different measures, and in order to make life a little more difficult, we have the R value and the U factor, but actually all it is the R value. The higher it is, the warmer the window stays, and the U factor, the lower it is, the warmer it stays. That's for the wintertime. In the summertime, it works the other way around. The lower the U factor, the cooler the window will stay during the summertime.
Okay. But this is something that's like a sticker that goes on the window that we can see as we're shopping for them.
Yes, there is a sticker on the windows that tells us the U factor, and it tells us some other important energy efficiency metrics, too.
Oh, good. Thank goodness you're bringing up the metrics.
Yeah.
There's a real science to this darn shopping for windows, for goodness sakes.
Well, the good thing is, to make it easier, the Energy Star label that I had mentioned really is based on those values. So if the window has good values, then it'll get the Energy Star sticker. If it doesn't, then it doesn't get the Energy Star. So that makes it a little easier. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so aside from the U factor, you have the solar heat gain coefficient, which is important. And that tells us what fraction of the heat coming from the sun goes through the windows. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more complicated than just looking at the glass and seeing, okay, how much light comes through, because most of the heat actually is invisible. It's infrared.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's talk about the different types of windows that are out there and what we need to think about, especially here in very warm and sunny Southern California here. Let's start with the wood-framed and fiberglass frame windows. What are some of the things that we should be looking for and thinking about?
Well, okay, you mentioned the warm climate in Southern California, and that's actually mainly a function of the glass. By having low E coatings, you keep that heat outside. By having the low E coating lowers the solar heat gain coefficient, so that helps you during the summertime. Now, the frames, they can also be important, and the difference between frames is more something you'll feel during the wintertime. If you have a frame that conducts a lot of heat, that'll be colder during the wintertime, and traditionally that's been mostly an issue with aluminum frames.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Nowadays, in California homes, aluminum frames are not that common anymore. At least the newer Energy Star windows, they're typically made from vinyl, wood, fiberglass, those type of materials, and they do not conduct as much heat. They stay warmer.
What about awning style windows? You know, when they're hinged at the top and they open outward, is it true that they leak less air than, let's say, if you had a sliding window?
Everything else being equal, yes, they leak less. So, of course, it depends a little bit on how well it's manufactured. But any of the windows that project out or in, so basically that you can swing out or in, they can shut tighter if they have nice weather stripping. Mm-hmm. Then that weather stripping gets compressed as you shut them, and that keeps them really nice and tight.
Mm-hmm. And what is your view on casement-style windows when they're hinged at one side, kind of like a door, and they open outward?
Yeah, that would be actually somewhat of a variant of an awning window. Both of them typically open to the outside.
Okay.
There's some that open to the inside as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about them, in addition to that they can be very tight, is also they're good for ventilation. So the ones that open to the outside, they can catch a breeze and just direct that to the inside of the house.
All right. What do you think about the old style sliding glass doors versus the kind now, the French doors? I mean, are one more efficient than another in that regard?
Well, it also depends on what weather stripping they have when it comes to the air leakage of it.
Yeah.
And with a door, actually, since they have a large area, really the glass energy efficiency makes a big difference there, and that can be the same type of glass in any of those styles. So certainly we're not restricted in what style of window or door we use. All of them can be energy efficient in Energy Star, but of course, if say natural ventilation is your priority, then it's kind of nice to have those options that you can open to the maximum.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And, you know, so many homes, I'm not sure if it's the same for you on the East Coast that it is here in California, but I guess because the homes that were built in the 50s here, we don't really have to, we aren't suffering like you guys with a cold blast of a winter, that a lot of the homes were created with those single sheet of clear glass, you know, and it's still terrible insulation. And now if you're living in one of those homes like I am, you're wondering what the heck, it's time to get rid of that, don't you think?
Yep, single pane glass, of course it's an energy drain. Now, of course, as you said, it doesn't get quite as cold in Southern California, so that's good. But at the same time, you do lose heat during the wintertime, and it's also a matter of comfort. Mm-hmm. Even, say, if it's 50 outside, which is not terribly cold, during the nighttime, if you're sitting at your computer and want to do some catching up with the day's work and the window glass gets cold, well, that's just not as comfortable as having nice new energy efficient windows.
So we really should be thinking double or triple glazed windows at least, right?
Double pane is really something where it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Now, triple pane can insulate even better, but for Southern California that might be overkill. Now, in addition to the number of panes, really the invisible features such as the low E coatings, they make a big difference. So a double pane low E window is quite a bit better than any regular double pane window.
Okay. And let's tell everybody again about your website. When you go to your website, what can we do to get smarter? Because if people are thinking, okay, now I want to learn more from Niles, we go to efficientwindows.org. And what are some of the things that we can discover when we go there?
Well, you can get an explanation of many of the terms, some of which I've thrown around here, the U factor, solar heat gain coefficient, low E coatings, argon gas fill. All of those are explained on our website. But what you can also do, there's a window selection tool where you can choose your location, and it'll show which type of windows would work well for that particular location. So now we've just talked about double pane versus triple pane, and you'll see, okay, how important is it? Mm-hmm. How many panes the window has, or what type of low E coating works well. So that gives you some information based on your specific climate. And you can find some examples of manufacturers that offer the different types of energy-efficient windows.
Cool. And you guys do not pick a particular brand that you favor, right?
We don't pick a particular brand. We do have a membership of around about 50 manufacturers from across the country, and we help people find which of those members of ours produce the type of window they might be looking for.
Gotcha.
But no, we don't.
Okay.
We don't say that any particular manufacturer
is the best.
Is the one we favor over another.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Niles. Great to have you. And again, we'll check out your website and get smarter on Windows. Was Niles Peterman. Again, the website is efficientwindows.org. Thanks so much. All right. And by the way, you can go to consumerreports.org and you become a member, and they will tell you which brands tested the best on their Windows survey. So you might want to check that out if you really want to get specific on brands, okay? All right, coming up next, we're going to talk citrus trees. And it's not the bumblebee, it's the Asian citrus psyllid, and that's not a happy guy. We don't like that guy, all right? We're going to make you smart on your citrus trees. Home Wizards, Cindy Dole, we're back in just a few.